Hi, hey, hello, and welcome to another episode of The Educated Fan. My name is Brandon, and I am joined here by your co-host, my best friend, Andrew Moore. Some new intro music there. Just testing it out. Should have started it earlier. I had the idea, and it came too late. But I like what happened there. How's your week been, bud? I mean, it's only been a few days since we talked. We're getting days and days closer to the draft. Our episode title changed by 2 letters. I mean, feels like nothing's changed. What's going on?
Not much, man. It's kind of strange. We've been thinking about the draft for so long now, and a week from tonight, we're going to know who the 6 or more Colts players are being added to this team.
Or less.
We'll have to see. But now we move on to the defensive side of the ball, and it's a need that I think Colts fans have been talking about ever since free agency in a couple positions, and we're going to give our opinions on our top prospects. So yeah, it's been a good couple days. How about yourself?
Not bad. Didn't do much, I don't think. Nope, not much. So I'm going to let the listeners know. I worked really hard on this episode. I'm going to work really hard on our mock draft on Tuesday. I'm going to work really hard on our stream on Thursday during the first round. But you'll notice some new stuff here on the screen. And again, if you're on the podcast, time to take a jump over to YouTube and give us a look. Literally a look. But let me know in the comments during, before, after, not before, but you get it. Let me know what you think. I worked really hard on this. Props to my cousin, Courtney, for giving these cool banners and graphics. But yeah, Andrew, defensive side of the football today. You want to hear something crazy? I mentioned us maybe having less than 6 picks, which would be a surprise to us, right? Greg Doyle.
Gigantic surprise.
Colts writer. Yeah. Says, and this is almost immediately after Stephen Holder releases an article about how the Colts always trade back and why it works. Greg Doyle says, everyone expects the Colts to trade back. Here's why they should be trading up for an elite. And then I tried clicking on the article for the Indy Star, and you got to subscribe to read the whole damn thing. I couldn't even get the whole fucking title. I was pissed. But Greg Doyle's talking about trading up for some reason for an elite something.
Greg Doyle's got some interesting ideas. I'll just leave it at that. But
He's not my favorite of the Colts writers.
I don't see the Colts trading up. Especially with trading for Carson Wentz. Yeah. 6 draft picks is the least amount of picks that Chris Ballard has ever had in a draft. Mm-hmm. And I don't expect it to only be 6 picks. I expect the Colts to get more picks throughout the draft, and not just on night 1, could be night 2, and certainly on day 3. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Andrew, give me a quick recap, if you could, of the Colts draft philosophy.
Yeah, so we talked about this Wednesday night when we were going over the offensive needs. But in case you missed the episode, this is kind of the Colts draft philosophy. They usually take best player available. There's always that debate of whether you go best player available or do you attack a position of need. Almost always the Colts are going to go best player available because you're going to want to build that solid team around you. And if you sacrifice that for need, sometimes you're not going to get a player that can have an impact somewhere else. And like we were talking about, trade back's always a possibility. Chris Ballard loves them picks. With only having 6, he's going to want to get more because there's going to be more shots at the dartboard if you have more picks. And then something else we talked about is the Colts are always looking for blue card guys, is what they call them. And these are guys that have incredible football character, guys that love the game, great in the locker room, and are really going to make a difference for the Colts, not only on the field, but off the field, and creating that culture as well. And there's a couple guys that we're going to talk about today, just like we did the other night, that qualify as blue cards in my opinion, at least. So that's kind of what the Colts are looking for. So guys that are high character, guys that really love football, and don't be surprised if we see trade backs this weekend as well. What's up, Bailey?
Sup, Bailey? Classic Bailey intervention. He's having a tough weekend.
Brandon's big dog, if you guys didn't know.
Big dog. Somebody with a straight face said the other day that my dog was small. I said my dog weighs 125 pounds.
Your dog's literally a moose.
Yeah, a gigantic moose. So yeah, Andrew, defense. What we're going to be looking for, we kind of changed our mind. We definitely think we need somebody out on the edge. Definitely think we need a cornerback. And originally we had linebacker in there, which, still, in my opinion, linebacker, and now we have safety on the list instead of linebacker. Mm-hmm. I've got those in about the same category. If I was talking about our defensive needs in this draft, if I had to pick only what I think super important to the Colts right now, I'd have said edge and cornerback. I put safety and linebacker and pretty low secondary needs. I think there's more needs on offense personally. I mean, between wide receiver, again, left tackle, number one, and then tight end. I think those are all more important than safety or linebacker. But we're going to talk about a few safeties today. But edge, Andrew, is definitely the number one most important thing. In your opinion, what are the Colts looking for there out at the edge position? Obviously, my opinion is going to be somebody just can get to the quarterback, period, the end. I mean, we need a playmaker. Justin Houston a couple years ago was a big-time playmaker for the Colts. Last year slowed down a bit, but once people started talking about him, he picked it back up, got those two safeties, yada, yada. But we need somebody over there to replace him. What about you? What do you think is most important characteristic-wise for an edge?
Yeah. So specifically when you're talking about the pass rushers that the Colts have drafted since Chris Ballard has been the GM, a lot of these guys, most of them are explosive athletes, like Kamoko Toure, like right. Ben Banogu flashed in college, guys that can really get off the line very fast and are really explosive off there. Cause that first initial jump, a lot of times if that will give you no pun intended, to give you the edge to get to the quarterback. So explosive athletes, guys with really long arms. I mean, you look at Kamoko Toure, and he's got some of the longest arms on the team. Because the long arms, you're able to get the offensive linemen away from you. They're not able to get their hands on you, and you can really create pass rush moves off of that.
You know what they say about long arms?
What's that?
Long sleeves.
There you go. So long arms, burst, quick bendability, because you always remember the Dwight Freeney and Robert Mathis when they're going around the edge, Goats. How they were able to bend, pretty much get their bodies horizontal to the ground to get under the arms of the offensive tackles. And something else is position flexibility. The Colts really like to have guys that can play on the outside, but if they need to go inside on pass rushing downs, they're able to do so. There were times where even though Danico Autry, he was primarily an outside defensive end last year. Sometimes he would switch inside to rush the passer on third down. Tyquan Lewis is one of those guys. So position flexibility is also key, and it's something the Colts look at really all across their defensive line, not just at the edge position.
Don't. Love it. And obviously, we're always looking for character in guys too, off the field, on the field. A couple of these guys, I don't know if they fit that 100% for sure. I think I picked the ones that I thought were a little better on the character side. Let's go with the higher ranked guy, Andrew, and we can start out talking about your guy, Azeez Ajilari.
Yeah, Azeez Ajilari. He's a guy from Georgia. Real fast, probably the most pure pass rusher in this entire draft. 6'2", 249, so he's a little bit smaller than some of the guys that the Colts normally draft. But he's a pure pass rushing talent. Last year, he had 8.5 sacks. He had 12.5 tackles for loss, was second team all SEC, and he led the SEC in tackles for loss, sacks, forced fumbles. A guy that really has a nose for the ball. Yeah. He's got pretty long arms, like something that the Colts really like, at 34.5 inches. His 40 was about 4'6", for a pass rusher. 4'6",
yeah.
That's pretty good. But the things that I talked about that the Colts look at excellent burst. He's got really good bend and strength, and he's got the arm length. His arm length, even though he's only 6'2", his arm length is of generally a pass rusher that would be about 6'5".
Mm-hmm.
So I think that kind of, for me at least, I think for that would make up for the small discrepancy in height. And here's one thing. You talked about character, and we talked about that's part of being a blue card guy.
Mm-hmm.
Kirby Smart is the head coach of Georgia, and he was describing Ajilari as someone that's very humble, very laid back, and his teammates feel the same way about him. And they praised his attitude, praised his character. He was the only freshman captain under Kirby Smart. That makes a difference, and I'm sure that impresses Chris Ballard and the Colts front office.
Yep.
Some things he does need to work on, though, is he does need to have more variety in his pass rush plans. It almost seems like he goes to the same move quite a bit. But that's something I think that Robert Mathis can help out with. It's something that he's been working with Kamoko Toure on over the past couple years. So with Ajilari, I mean, I don't know if he's going to be available there at 21 for the Colts.
I don't think so.
I think he could go in the teens, but you just never know how it plays out. But if Ajilari's there, he's instinctive, he's explosive, he can bend, attack. He's an absolute violent pass rusher, and I think he would be a very impactful pass rusher for the Colts for quite a few years to come.
Ooh, from Marietta, Georgia. I've been there. So what I liked about Azeez, I mean, being a 2-year starter, that doesn't sound like a lot until you remember the fact that he went to Georgia and he was in the SEC, which those are the most NFL-ready defenders in the country in that conference. You mentioned his speed. He's a fast guy. So yeah, I mean, other than that, I didn't look into him too much. Obviously, other than you put him on the list, so I slapped him on the board here. Something I did not include in our graphic over here. I feel like the edge position is. You think that's an important 3-cone drill position?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because it allows you to. That's basically the only
change in
drill.
direction. Yeah,
Exactly.
That's super important for the edge. He's got a 7-1-3. 7-1-3. No, I'm sorry. That's Julian Phillips. What was his 3 Phillips? Jalen Phillips. 7-1. I'm sorry. 7-1-1. Mm-hmm. No, damn it. I'm on the wrong one again. Wow, I'm good at this. 7-2-7. 7-2-7. Moving along. Anything else about Ajilari? I just don't think we're going to have an opportunity to take the guy.
A lot of mock drafts, I've seen Ajilari in the 20s. It seems like that there are a lot of people that have like Kwity Paye ahead of him, Jalen Phillips ahead of him. It's just kind of depends on where you see it. So he very well could be available. I think he has a chance to be there at 21. Now, do the Colts stay at 21? Would they take an offensive tackle rather than an edge rusher at 21? We'll have to see.
It's all going to depend on who's best.
Right.
I think our pick at 21 is going to be the best available player that is a defensive end or an offensive tackle, left tackle. Now, we'll talk about it later. I'm not so sure Chris Ballard's going to be so sold on any edge rushers, but we're going to hope. Next guy, Andrew, I have on my list who I like and I think could be available, and you have on the list of he's not going to get picked. Jalen Phillips, out of Miami, he's 6'5", 260, only a 1-year starter at Miami. Only 1-year starter at Miami. He only played at Miami for 1 year. He played his first 2 seasons at UCLA and then transferred, so he missed a year because of the transfer rule, which, by the way, thank God they're changing that. He ran a 4.57. He ran a 3-cone drill, 7.13. Both of those stats, Andrew, better than Azeez Ajilari, just so you know. He was a high school 5-star recruit, number 1 at his position in the country, and he was higher overall than Najee Harris and Cam Akers. A little fun fact. Problem is he missed 14 games at UCLA due to injury. That 1 year he played in Miami, he did not miss any games. What I like about him, though, is his athleticism. He's an NFL size. I think high ceiling, really high ceiling. And you mentioned Robert Mathis earlier. all of these guys that we're talking about at edge, I just keep picturing them working with Robert and what he can do to help them. And I think that's what's going to boost his ceiling is the Colts coaching. But the low floor, I would say, is due to injury. I mean, his floor is stops playing football because of injuries, because I do believe he did temporarily retire before he left UCLA and went to Miami due to concussions.
Right. And first of all, I'm a big fan of Jalen Phillips' game. I think he's a phenomenal pass rusher, and I think he probably has the highest upside of anybody in this pass rushing class, including Azeez Ajilari. But you mentioned it right there. It's the medical that really scares me. And the reason why I don't think he is necessarily, I mean, this could all be wrong. I don't have any insider information on this, but it just seems like this is the type of guy that, because of the medical, it would scare off the Indianapolis Colts. And an example of this is a couple years ago, when in 2019, the Colts were sitting at 26 and Montez Sweat, a very, very high rated pass rusher, was still on the board, but he had a heart condition. And it has been said that took him off the Colts board. And that's why the Colts traded out of it. Now,
good player.
He hasn't had any issues since he's been in the league, and the Colts ended up getting Rock Ya-Sin with a later pick in the second round. So I just think because you go off that, and then with it being such a weird year COVID wise, where you can only send one team doctor and one trainer to that medical combine. And the thing about Jalen Phillips was he wasn't able to go to that medical combine either. Right. Because he tested positive for COVID that week. And so if the Colts haven't been able to get their team doctors on him, major red flags. I just don't think the Colts are going to be comfortable enough spending that high of a pick on a guy with so much uncertainty medical wise.
And Chris Ballard thinks very highly of his medical staff. So the fact that he couldn't get them, like you said, their hands on him, it's going to be a tough sell for Chris Ballard. If you ask me, I do not think it's a very likely selection. However, I do think he's a great fit play-wise and is going to be available in that 21 range. Now, Andrew, the next guy here we both have on our list, I personally like this guy quite a bit. Peyton Turner out of Houston. Let's run through some of the stats here. 3-year starter, 6'5", 270. Did not run a 40 or a 3-cone. He was a senior captain, added 50 pounds, probably a muscle, since high school. Super physical, doesn't loaf. What do you have on this guy, Andrew?
Peyton Turner, for me, is a blue card guy.
No loafing.
This guy fits everything the Colts are looking for in a defensive end. And I think if he's available in the second round at 54, or if the Colts have a little bit higher pick than that, very likely target for the Indianapolis Colts. Is this an
Andrew Moore blue card guy? Is this one of the guys you were telling me beforehand you're so excited about?
I am very high on Peyton Turner. So
you're going to love the picture I have of him on here.
Like you said, 6'5", 270. He's got 35-inch arms. Those are very long arms for a defensive end. He's got a wingspan of 84 inches. Absolutely incredible. He was a team captain at Houston, second team all AAC. He led the team in sacks, tackles for loss. And he was a guy.
5 sacks in 5 games his senior year, 10.5 tackles for a loss. In 5 games.
5 games.
Yeah.
Kid is a monster. And something we talk about, the Colts love the Senior Bowl, love to draft guys that went to the Senior Bowl. Peyton Turner was at the Senior Bowl and had a pretty good week there. But like I said, super long athlete, humongous wingspan, and he's very physical. Uses his hands to knock away and punch down the hands of the offensive linemen. He's not only can he create with his pass rushing ability, he's got a good bull rush. And like you said, something we talk about all the time, what Matt Eberflus talks about all the time, you don't want to loaf. You don't want to give up on a play. And this guy, from his coaches, he said, doesn't loaf. He's chasing down and making tackles and plays that he really shouldn't even be involved in, which is incredible. And here's something else that I think is a blue card guy for the Colts. He has played outside and he's played inside. He's got that position versatility.
Nice.
So it's just something. It's like you're building a Chris Ballard defensive end with all these things that I'm saying. And I mean, some of his weaknesses are he does tend to rise up a little bit and have some high pad level. You tend to want to be able to keep low to get up around those offensive tackles. And he, like I said, he does rush with effort, but sometimes he doesn't have a game plan, which a lot of these pass rushers when they're young don't. It's something they need to develop, and I'm sure he can.
Yeah.
And he has had some injuries, which is something to kind of keep an eye on, because we're already dealing with Kamoko Toure, who's had some injuries. But overall, I mean, as long as he can get a plan underneath him for his pass rush, the dude is, I think, a perfect fit and exactly what the Colts look for if they're building a defensive end. So Peyton Turner very well could be a Colt come second round. I don't think he makes it out of the second round, so the Colts will need to strike then.
I have written down raw, high ceiling, good character. And this one I actually took note. This is what the one guy I was like, this guy can work with Robert Mathis because he has all the characters physically and athletically. He just needs to hone that skill set, which, I mean, we've seen the videos. Robert Mathis is active on Twitter. He's always posting stuff, the work he's doing with the Colts defensive line. That's awesome. Next up, Andrew Ellerson Smith, edge rusher from Northern Iowa, 6'6", 252, only a one-year starter. He ran 4.75 for the 40. I don't know what his cone drill was. It was 7.11.
Yeah, so he's a pretty quick guy. Ellerson Smith played in a smaller school. He's of Northern Iowa, obviously. Wasn't really recruited highly out of high school. He was only the 47th ranked recruit in Minnesota, but the dude has produced ever since he got there. I mean, he's had last year alone, not last year, but in 2019, because he opted out of the spring season because Northern Iowa moved their season because of COVID. But in 2019, his final season had 14 sacks. He had 5 forced fumbles. He had 21 and a half tackles for loss. Just absolute monster. He was a first-team All-American, first-team All-Conference. And this guy is again kind of in the build that the Colts are looking for. Like you said, 6'6", 252, 34-inch arms, almost 83-inch wingspan. Guy is a very physical, very long athlete, and he's got that twitch that you kind of hear about, that burst, that twitch that the Colts really like to see, and that jumps out in the tape. Now there are some weaknesses. I mean, he is kind of lean. I do think he needs to bulk up once he gets to the
Looks
league.
like a tight end.
Yeah, he really does. And I think he rushes a little bit tall, kind of like what I was talking about with Peyton Turner. He needs to kind of work on staying a little bit lower, playing through contact. And because he went to Northern Iowa, he doesn't have the experience versus top competition that, say, an Azeez Ajilari does, or even Peyton Turner, because Peyton Turner was still in Houston. They played some big ball games. So that's kind of worrisome. So I think he does have probably some growing pains that he'll have to go through in the NFL just to adjust to the top competition and the guys that he's going up against. Yeah. But he's got potential. And when you're putting up that kind of numbers and those sack numbers, especially, it's something to look at. And then above all, I mean, he was invited to the Senior Bowl too. So that, the Colts were talking to him. And this is a guy that I think you could find in maybe the 4th round, 3rd round, one of those middle rounds where the Colts, if they don't want to spend a high pick on an edge rusher because of the young guys they have now, you can maybe find him beginning of day 3.
Yeah, man, that 2019 season, wow, 21 and a half
incredible
tackles for a loss, 14 sacks, first team All-American. That, I mean, from Northern Iowa, you know what I mean? Like that's not a big school. It's not a big conference. Those are some impressive numbers from that young man. I think that's it for edge. Look at us.
Yeah, but I mean, I think for edge rushers, the Colts definitely have a need there, but we'll talk about it when we talk about Chris Ballard's comments. It might not be at the top of mind for the Colts. It might be for fans.
You remember what we thought was so important in the draft last year, and Chris Ballard just absolutely shit all over us? I mean, I don't think either one of us got a single pick, right? Like, I don't think we picked one single guy, like, on our prospect list.
We picked Michael Pittman.
You're right.
Michael
Okay.
Pittman. But other than that, I think Pittman was the only
Blackman?
one we got.
Did we have Blackman?
We talked about him. We said we weren't sure because of his knee, and then the Colts did pick him.
That's right.
We talked about Jacob Beeson, but we weren't too high on him.
Yeah, we were not a fan.
So,
sorry, Jake. No. I know you're listening. All right, so moving on to cornerback, Andrew. Why don't you? I don't know. What do you think we need specifically in a cornerback?
Yeah, so when you're thinking about pretty much all the corners on the Colts outside of Kenny Moore, what do they have? They have very long. Well, even Kenny Moore. This is kind of what makes Kenny Moore beat the height label, because the Colts really don't want to draft or have corners that are below 6 foot on their roster. So, but they have guys with long arms, and Kenny Moore has some of the longest arms on the team. And I think that's what helps him fit, and why the Colts first took their chance on him. And now Kenny Moore is one of, if not the best slot corner in the game. So the Colts love corners with long arms. Usually they have to be above 6 foot, but they're not. The Colts won't knock somebody off if they're not, because Kenny Moore, Isaiah Rodgers, both smaller. Typically, they like their corners to be above 6 foot. Good in zone coverage. Colts run a lot of zones, so that's something that's important to him. And then an able and willing tackler. You see all the time the Colts cornerbacks are in the backfield, are covering the long outside runs, and you have to be a tackler in this Colts scheme, otherwise you're not going to find any playing time on the field. Yeah,
tackling's huge. Not giving up big plays is huge. And Andrew, I've got your guy here, Greg Newsom II from Northwestern, thrown up on the screen. You're out of your mind even bringing this guy up, and I'm going to say the same thing with the first safety I've written down. I just do not think this guy's going in the first round. There's no chance in hell, in my opinion, that we draft a cornerback first round, unless, there's just somebody that can't be let go. You know what I mean? That we just can't pass up on, that falls down to 21. But Greg Newsom, 6 foot, 192 pounds, 3-year starter, and probably one of the most important positions in regards to the 40, where that actually matters, is cornerback. Cornerbacks have to be fast. They have to be the most athletic guys on the field, because they got the hardest job on the field. His 40 time was a 4.38.
Which is blazing. And the thing is, he's got a track background. He ran track in high school. I think he ran like an 11-second 100-meter dash. So he's got plenty of speed. And also his vertical. He's got a 40-inch vertical. So the kid can sky up for anything. His arms aren't the longest, only 31 inches or so, with a wingspan of 73, which is kind of a knock on him. But the thing about Greg Newsom is he's just so smart. He is such a high football IQ player, and he's got that awareness that with, even if you're talking about him going up against NFL wide receivers, he's going to be able to dictate where their routes are going. Because he's a Northwestern guy. We know how smart Northwestern guys are. Anthony Walker went to Northwestern, so that's something in his favor. And here's something that I think is a plus for the Colts scheme. Very good tackler. He's very willing tackler, and he really likes to square up to guys and get them on the ground. He takes pride in that. And something that his coach said, as Pat Fitzgerald, he's got a really short memory, and he's got a very quick fuse. So he takes it personal when completions are completed on him. And he allowed 0 touchdowns in 2020, which is absolutely huge.
That's good.
He only had 1 interception, but it seemed like people weren't really throwing to him. They didn't want to test him. And even with that, he still led the Big Ten in pass deflections, and he was first team all Big Ten. So Greg Newsom is very, very talented. Something that is kind of a concern is he does have some durability issues. He missed at least 3 games in every season of college, and he's kind of got a little bit of Rock Ya-Sin in him, where he can grab when he gets beat, and it causes some flags to be thrown. But
flags better than a touchdown.
Yeah, and in some cases, but you don't want it to end up like a Rock Ya-Sin, where it leads the other team down the field.
Yeah, where the other team just starts attacking him hard.
Right. But overall, Newsom, with the durability concerns, but he's a good corner. I think he's probably one of my favorite corners of this entire class. I think he can play zone. I think he can play man. I don't know if the Colts will take a corner that early in the draft, but I feel like he'd be perfect in the Colts scheme.
Yeah, I mean that'd be wonderful. I just think there's not a shot in hell. I don't think there's a chance, but we can hope. Next guy, real simple name. He didn't have a hard time in kindergarten at all. Ifatu Melifonwu. May I phone you?
There you go. We can call him May I Phone You.
May I phone you?
But Melifonwu, great prospect. Go ahead.
Syracuse, 6'2", 205 pounds, 2-year starter, 40 not bad, 44.8, 4.48.
There you go.
Not 44.8.
Yeah, like you said, guy from Syracuse. What stood out to me about this guy is kind of his makeup. I mean, 6'2", 205. Yeah. He's got real long arms, wingspan's about 78, which is real good for a corner, and his vertical jump. So you're talking about Greg Newsom with his 40. Melifonwu's was 41.5 inches. So even higher than Greg Newsom. So the kid's got bounce. In his senior year, he had 55 tackles, which is really good for a corner. And then not both of it, the last 2 years, he had 10 pass deflections in each one of those years. So the kid's got a nose for the ball. Outstanding size and length. Real long arms that can take away the passing lanes. And with all those tackles, you can tell he's just a physical run defender, and he's not afraid to put his shoulder on the ball and really make those tackles. And he does have a brother, Obi, who is in the NFL, and his brother has had some issues as far as character is concerned, but all the NFL scouts say that he genuinely loves football, and he doesn't have the same issues that his brother has, which is definitely a plus. But again, this is kind of a guy that he makes a little bit of contact before the ball gets there, tends to lead to flags, something that we've seen with Rock Ya-Sin. And I noticed in the tape, he gave up a lot of cushion when playing off on receivers. Mm-hmm. And that's something that does kind of concern me, especially with how much off coverage the Colts do play. You got to be able to react to that. And it doesn't seem like that's one of his strengths. Now, could he grow into it? Sure. But it is something to think about. But overall, I mean, I think he's a real instinctive player. He does need to improve a little bit of anticipation, like I said. But if you can get him in, maybe if the Colts trade back and get a 3rd round pick, maybe I could see the Colts maybe taking a flyer on him in the 3rd round, and he's got the traits that he could eventually be a starter, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I can't get over the first and last name. That's tough. It's hard to read.
Melifonwu.
I didn't do a whole lot of cornerback looking. I do have one guy, but your next guy is the next one up. Shamar Jean-Charles from
Jean-Charles.
Appalachian State. Only 5'10", 184 pounds. 2-year starter at Appalachian State. 40 time was 4.51. People forget Appalachian State with that gigantic upstate over Michigan when I was in high school, and I got to ridicule my Michigan fan friends at school, and that was a lot of fun. What do we like about this guy, Andrew?
So I've got him on here for a couple reasons. First, yes, he is small. And his arms aren't necessarily very long, but this guy, he just produces. He was 2nd team All-American. He led the FBS in passes defended, and he was a team captain. So he was someone that really had good character, and his teammates trusted him.
And he is a tackler.
He is. So in the last 2 years, he had 45 tackles and then 37 tackles. The kid can tackle. That's for sure. He's very feisty, and he's a better tackler than you might expect with his size. He likes to allow the play to develop and kind of react off of the play, which is good. You don't see him really mess up those plays or have too much of a false step, which is something that I think would be good in the Colts defense, because it's more of a read and react for the corners, kind of sitting back in that zone scheme. Like I said, voted a captain when he was a senior, and while he doesn't have that ideal size, it kind of doesn't apply to him as far as in the run game. He does have some spacing issues in zone coverage. I have noticed that sometimes he can be found in the wrong spot, but when you're taking a guy in the later rounds, like I think Jean Charles will go, it's going to be a developmental prospect anyway. So I think he's got some talent. He doesn't have elite size, like I said,
right?
But I think if he's with the right coaches, which his defensive coordinator, James Rowe, is now the new cornerbacks coach for the Indianapolis Colts. So that is why I have him on here. I think James Rowe is really high on him, and it's somebody that James could want on this team, and he could develop into a very core special teamer and a good backup for the Colts.
How much do you think I don't want to call them specialist coach, positional coaches, how much do you think, how much pull do you think they have in Ballard's ear? Like, hey, like I need a guy like this. Like I like him. I've watched the film. Obviously, these guys aren't a part of the scout team, but they're doing their research. They have preferences. Do you think Ballard takes into account what these positional coaches are looking for as well?
I think so. And Ballard has talked about it, that when they're in these draft meetings, they'll go over the tape and then they ask the coaches, now would this, to look at him, would this guy fit in this scheme? Do you know anything about his work ethic and things like that? Do you think you see the traits in him that you could mold him into a good player for us? So I think the coaches are heavily involved. We obviously know Frank Reich is heavily involved on the offensive side of the ball,
right? But
I think the position coaches will give their opinions too, as far as what they think on prospects once Ballard and the scouting staff go to them too.
And Andrew, I don't have a lot on my guy. His name's Marco Wilson out of Florida. I like guys in the SEC, defenders in the SEC. He's a 3-year starter for Florida. He's 5'11", 191 pounds, not quite the size you'd be looking for, but a blazing 40 at 4.34. He's really athletic. He's not necessarily, like I said, the size. But he's up there, 5'11", but the speed is big. I think this guy is, even though he's a 3-year starter, NFL wise would be kind of raw, would need some good coaching. Like you said, we've got Rowe. I think this guy's got some strong potential, especially for where he would be drafted, which is going to be in the lower rounds. That's kind of where I was looking at safeties and corners. Was it just a couple of guys in the lower rounds, and I think he'd fit. Do you know anything about him that you want to share?
Yeah, he's a solid prospect. I think you're right in thinking that if he is picked in the lower rounds, I think it'd be a good fit. And it could be that the Colts, that's where they look to take a cornerback. So not necessarily a Greg Newsom or even a Melifonwu. It could be like a Jean Charles, like a Wilson, somebody that they're just looking to add competition behind there.
Special teams,
things like that. So it definitely, if he's available, depending on like the medical and character as well, could be a fit for the Colts too.
Sure. And on to not linebacker, but safety. Andrew, for some reason, said Javon Holland from Oregon. Like we have any chance again him. Another great picture. Thanks, Brandon. I appreciate that, Brandon. Javon Holland, 6 foot, 207 pounds, basically same build as me. 2-year starter. 40 is a 4.46. This is a position, Andrew, and here's one of the biggest reasons why I didn't think safety was going to be huge on our board, and you chose that over linebacker, and I respect that, and we'll run with safety here. But Jim Aiello even mentioned recently, like, people forget about Khari Willis. I think we're set with Julian Blackmon, but people forget how good Khari Willis played last year. Very Bob Sanders-esque, muscular, aggressive, hard-hitting dude. I mean, he laid the pipe last year. So I do think safety is low on our list, so I don't think we're going to be going after a guy like a Javon Holland. But damn, he's good. So let's talk about him.
Yeah, I'll touch on that real quick. And I mean, I'm a huge Khari Willis fan. I'm not saying that Khari Willis should be replaced at all. I think Khari Willis is our future, is our starting safety now and for years to come. Love Khari Willis. The reason why I think safety might be a little bit higher priority for the Colts than linebacker is number one, the Colts like to play under Matt Eberflus. They like to play 3 safety looks. a couple years ago, they would like to have Malik Hooker, Kari Willis, and they had George Odom out there. Last year, they really didn't do it as much because George Odom was such a core special teamer. They had Julian Blackmon and Kari Willis out there, but with Malik Hooker injured, they weren't able to do it as much. And I think the Colts would like to get back to doing that and having more of a 3 safety look out there with Darius Leonard, and maybe having Kari Willis come down as that dime linebacker, or drafting a safety to be the dime linebacker. Yeah. I think that's something they look for. And number 2, I mean, the Colts have a lot of really good linebackers, right? Even with the loss of Anthony Walker. I mean, you talk about Bobby Okereke coming in and playing the Mike linebacker spot. EJ Speed is now in his 3rd year, and the Colts are very high on EJ Speed. And I think they think he could take over that Sam role that Okereke had last year and excel there. Plus you got Zaire Franklin, Matthew Adams, Jordan Glasgow, who's more of a special teamer, but the Colts are still high on that as well. I'm not ruling out a linebacker, but I do think the Colts would like to play more 3 safety looks, and they're a lot more comfortable with their linebacker room at this point than the top end of their safety group overall.
Okay. And Javon Holland, I mean, want to dig into him?
Yeah, Javon Holland. Now, he's a guy that did 2020 season, so we haven't seen him in a while. But when he was on the field in 2018 and 2019, an absolute baller. I mean, in his career, he has got 19 pass deflections. He's got 9 interceptions. He led the team in interceptions in 2019 and 2018, for the matter of fact. He's got a 4.46 40, so he's pretty fast as a safety, and the dude just competes. He's very athletic, and that's something that the Colts really like to look in their safeties. They like smart players, they like guys for a nose for the ball, which he has with those interceptions leading the team each year, and guys that, like I said, force turnovers, and this is what that guy does. And he's able to read and react without hesitation, really, and I think that's something when you watch Kari Willis play, he's just so fast to the ball, and he's so fast to react. Holland is like that as well. Now, I mean, he's a disruptive defender on tape, and he's good with reading and reacting. But you don't see him have like explosive speed. I think that's one of his biggest knocks. So that's something that the Colts will have to take into effect. But I mean, if he's there in the 3rd round, Colts get an absolute steal. I think he probably ends up in the 2nd round. but he's a very good prop.
Yeah, I mean, he's good. There's a reason he's pretty high up on the list for safeties. So, I don't, like I said, I didn't do a lot of safety and cornerback work because I just don't see him as a top priority. But your next guy here, I did take some notes on your 3rd guy here. But Tyree Gillespie, safety out of Missouri, 5'11", 207, and that's a position you can get away with being a little smaller. That guy's big. I mean, he's almost 5'12", or 5'12", 6 foot. Some people call it 5'12". I call it 6 foot. That's what I am. 207. Can't get away from the 207. So Tyree feels me here. 3-year starter. Ran the 40 in a 4.42. What do we like about Tyree?
Yeah, so Gillespie, he's a guy that's very rangy, and so he kind of reminds you of that free safety mold, like a Julian Blackmon, like a Malik Hooker, very rangy safety, and he takes real aggressive angles to the football. He does like to tackle hard. You see a lot of his tackles are very powerful, and he's got good timing, both in coverage and against the run, and he's really good at creating fumble opportunities, which is something the Colts like to see with their safeties.
We love turnovers.
Both Willis and Blackmon have that trait. Yep. So those are some pros. He does need to anticipate a little bit better. And something that's a little bit of a concern is just the production. I mean, he had 42 games in college, didn't have a single interception. So that's a little worrisome. But Gillespie, I could see in more of the mid rounds, maybe like a 4th round guy, maybe late 3rd, early 4th, something like that. So he's got the physical traits and the range to play safety, but he definitely needs to improve on some things, a little bit of awareness and coverage. But I think he could be a really good backup and someone that could play like a 3rd safety role for the Colts.
And on to the next one, Andrew. I like this next one. Jacoby Stevens out of LSU. Again, we're back on that that LSU defense. I'm sorry, SEC defense, and LSU DBU. Okay, Is it LSU DBU? Or is that Miami?
I would
It's
say
LSU. Lately, especially.
LSU is more of like wide receiver.
That defense,
DBU
though, 2 years
like
ago.
Ohio State.
That defense 2 years ago on the Joe Burrow team, real good. This guy was a part of it. He was a 3-year starter. He's 6'1", 212 pounds. His 40 is a 4.58. I think he's super aggressive. 21.5 tackles for loss for that guy. So, and that was in his career over 3 years. So not bad for a safety getting that. I mean, that's almost 10 tackles for loss 1 year and over 5 each year. So, what do you like about Jacoby Stevens?
Yeah, so Stevens is a guy that actually Zach Hicks. He's a real big fan of Stevens, so I'm a real big fan
of Zach Hicks.
So I started digging into his film, and just his film is incredible. I mean, Jacoby Stevens, he plays like a linebacker. He's got a real stout build to him, and he's just so physical. He looks like he's a mini Bob Sanders out there. He's fearless in run support. He tackles with his eyes, so he watches and knows where the carrier is going. Doesn't dip his head, which is good technique. And he's got, not only is he good in the run support, but he does have enough range that he can cover tight ends. So a guy that could fit that dime linebacker role. If you want to stick him on a tight end, he can cover him pretty well. And he loves, here's something that I think the Colts really like, is he loves to get involved in the community. A lot of his teammates and his coaches have been outspoken about that, saying how great of a guy he is. And he was invited to the Senior Bowl. So another check mark for the Colts, just like Gillespie was, the safety before. Now, Jacoby Stevens, while he does have some good, there is some bad. I mean, he had 14 missed tackles the past 2 seasons, so definitely needs to clean that up there. And something that, while his teammates said he loves to get involved in the community, a lot of NFL scouts, when you talk to them, a lot of them are saying that he has inconsistent effort level. And although he finished the season strong, there were some questions about his effort and his attitude with the team. There's a quote here from Dane Brugler's The Beast, from an NFL scout, that says, "The coaches say he can be a unifying leader when he wants to, but the attitude issues can be a distraction. Not what you want to hear about a senior." That's definitely a red flag. So it would be a guy that maybe the Colts take a late flyer on, maybe 6th, 7th round, something like that. But I think if you can get that under control and get him in a locker room like the Colts, I think he could be a good asset to your team as a backup. He could be that dime linebacker safety role, and a really good special teams player for you too.
And honestly, we don't need another defensive leader. We just need guys that can play ball, because we got Darius Leonard, we got Kenny Moore, we got DeForest Buckner.
Right.
I don't think we're looking for a leader per se. I think we're set on the leader category on defense. There could be 3 C's on that defense, if you ask me.
I still think the Colts are going to make sure, though, with all their picks, even though they have leaders, they want guys that have good attitude as well. You
need leaders, and you need robots. I mean, you need a combination of. So
we'll see what Brian Decker has to say about him, because I'm sure the Colts talk to him, and if he passes Decker's evaluation, the Colts won't have a problem drafting him.
All right, Andrew, that's it on the defensive prospects. Special teams prospects coming to you. No, I'm just kidding. Let's talk about our man Christopher Ballard talking to the media this week. I missed opportunity here. I could have put his name on here. You're going to love this picture too, Andrew. I'm just a picture maniac today. Let me give you a visual.
Giving the people what they want.
Let me give you a visual, Andrew, and this will help the people on the podcast that for some reason still aren't listening on YouTube, okay? Listen, we want you to listen on both. But it's basically the Chris Ballard meme picking up the phone. Hey, it's Chris Ballard.
Love that
and
picture.
The blue tie. Yeah, it's a great one. It's a great source for memes. Chris Ballard this week talked to the old media in preparation for the draft, as he does every year. We got some, I think, decent nuggets out of him. And, you know, I mean, he's always so informative. He's always so open. He's always thanking the right people. But yeah, what did you think about Chris Ballard's press conference this week, Andrew?
Yeah. So a couple things. I think the first thing for me was what stood out the most is I don't know if edge rusher really is as big a priority
Ding, ding, ding.
for the Colts as the fans. I think that the Colts really want to see what they have with these young pass rushers. He talked about Tyquan Lewis and how big of an impact he had in limited role. They want to see what he has. Kamoko Toure. Chris Ballard talked at nauseum about Kamoko Toure being injured all last year and just having bad luck. And
Chris Ballard used the term nauseum.
Yeah.
In this press conference, and I thought about you immediately. He won't let Kamoko Toure go. He won't let it I mean, he is bound and determined Kamoko Toure is going to work out.
Well, do you remember at the beginning of last year, how much we talked about him, and we said Kamoko Toure very well could be the starting defensive end, and how high we were on Kamoko Toure. He just never came back from that injury like we thought he would, and he wasn't right. He had to get a second surgery on that ankle after the season.
Right. I didn't know about that.
I had heard about it, and I saw that Kamoko had tweeted it, and then he deleted it real quick, so he wasn't supposed to tell people. But they think that Kamoko Toure is going to be medically cleared by June, so he probably won't be. He's not going to be in OTAs in the mini camp, but it looks like he'll be ready for a full training camp, and I think that's what he needs. And Ballard was talking about Ben Banogu. He said it's time. It's time to see what Ben Banogu has. He knows it's a big year. He's working hard. And I think that's what the Colts want to see. They want to see what these young guys have, because it may not seem like they've been on the team for very long, but Kamoko Toure and Tyquan Lewis are in the same draft class as Quentin Nelson and Darius Leonard and Braden Smith. This is their fourth year. This is a contract year for those two.
Yep.
If the Colts need to see that they can produce and be their defensive ends for the future, otherwise, the Colts won't be able to re-sign them, and the Colts want to keep their own. So it's time for them to show what they got. And if they don't, they probably won't be back with the Colts next year.
You know what? What you just said might have changed my mind. Because I was with you. It doesn't feel like defensive end is a priority for maybe Chris Ballard. But then you pointed out the fact that they are on contract years. And he's not a guy that doesn't like to be prepared if he can be. So, I mean, maybe he dropped some nuggets that made us feel like, well, I don't know about defensive end, but then you just brought up a point. Maybe he's just taking us off the trail a little bit. Maybe he's trying not to be too transparent this year like he normally is.
Well, I do think the Colts will draft an edge rusher. 100% believe that. Do I think it'll be at 21? Odds probably aren't that great. Do I think it'll
depends on what offensive tackles fall?
Right, and it depends if Azeez Ajilari is there and the Colts think he is an absolute difference maker, they're going to take him.
Yeah,
I think that they might be looking more at an edge rusher, maybe around this late second,
which we are second to last pick in the second round.
No, we're a 22nd pick.
Fourth round is the second to last pick. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so like if a Peyton Turner is there, perfect fit. If an Ellerson Smith is there in the third round, if the Colts trade back and get a third round pick, perfect fit. Those are guys that you could see, but I don't know because everyone's like, oh, we need to take Jalen Phillips or we need to take Kwity Paye or Azeez Ajilari. Hey, I don't know if that's going to be the pick. I think that they want to see what they've got in these young edge rushers.
Yeah. And I think we should give them the opportunity. It's not like, I don't know.
You got to see what you got, and it's a little unnerving just because we don't have a dominant pass rusher out there on the team right now. But if Kamoko Toure can come to fruition and can be that 10-sack guy a year, then we're gonna want to see him play. So it's just a tough spot to be in, and the Colts know they need to get better at that position. That's why I think they will add in the draft as well. But that's probably explains why not the big need to go after somebody in free agency like a Bud Dupree or a Yannick Ngakoue or Carl Lawson, someone like that.
What else stuck out to you about the Ballard presser, Andrew? Really, the biggest thing I had was the whole defensive end thing. I was right with you on that. I picked that up. I thought you were going to be so proud of me, and then, of course, that's the first thing you bring up. So
I am. I am proud of you because that's a big. And a lot of the fans want edge right away, and I don't know if it's going to happen. I think the other thing that really stuck out to me was just how he said that this offensive line class is very deep. So if they do trade back, they do like a lot of guys that they could pick at that left tackle position. And we talked about them like Sam Cosmi, Liam Eichenberg, Alex Leatherwood. If they do trade back and like a Christian Darrisaw is not there, a Tevin Jenkins, which you brought up Tevin Jenkins, and I'm going to give you some credit because when Chris Ballard was talking, he said if they're athletic enough, they'll be able to go from, if they played primarily right tackle, they should be able to make the switch to left tackle.
Especially at such a young age. It's different if you've been if you're Braden Smith and you're already in the Colts system at right tackle, right?
Yes.
Yeah, tackle. I had a moment where I was worried it was a Brandon moment. At right tackle, and you're in that system and you're in the NFL for a few years, it's harder to move to left tackle then. It's harder to make that switch. But when you're already going through so much new, college to the NFL, new coaches, new teammates, new everything. I mean, change is easier in lumps, in my opinion.
Right.
When you've got a lot of change going on at once, in my opinion, you might as well just dive right in, right? So I agree with you. I think the move from right tackle to left tackle, from college to the NFL, it's a lot easier. I mean, look at Danny Pinter. How many positions did he play on the line just in college? I mean, he played tight end, tackle, and guard, I think, in college. And now he's, a backup center and guard for us?
Right. Well, I mentioned Tevin Jenkins specifically because, and you had brought Tevin Jenkins scored a lot of the teams will use this thing called the RAS score, which is the raw athletic score. And Tevin Jenkins scored one of the highest RAS scores out of any tackle over the last 10 years. Wow. So with his athletic ability, I think maybe that kind of signals, and I do know the Colts like Tevin Jenkins. They've been in contact with him, that if Tevin Jenkins is there and that's who the Colts are really set on, I think he could make the move. Now, having heard that, I have more confidence that he could make the move to left tackle than I did last week.
No big deal. It's what I do. Pick out the winners. I do believe I also said, I think you're right. I think I said Michael Pittman Jr. was my favorite last year. I think Peyton Turner could be our Michael Pittman Jr. this year.
Very well could be.
Well, I'd love that.
We'll see if Tevin Jenkins is even there at 21. I still fully expect the Colts to trade back to maybe 29 or 30 and then pick Alex Leatherwood, which I'd be perfectly fine with Alex Leatherwood next to Quentin Nelson because both maulers open up running lanes for Jonathan Taylor all day.
All right. Anything else from Chris? I didn't take very good notes on this. I was listening while I was cleaning. And then today I was going to re-listen. And as you could see, all the hard work I put into this stream and preparing that, I did not get the chance to re-listen and take better notes. So, but like I said,
only other thing was at the very end, he's like, well, we'll talk to you late Thursday night, or maybe Friday, or maybe early Thursday night. So
yeah.
Chris Ballard never telling you where he's going to end up. What if they trade up? You never know.
Maybe trade up. I'm just saying it could happen if they like somebody enough. Hey, what do you think New England does? Think they go after QB? Think they trade up for a QB?
You'll have to wait for our mock draft episode.
Ah, piss. Have you filled out any more of those? I've got a whole 2 filled out. That's what I'm doing tomorrow.
Yeah, we're going to go back and forth and get our mock draft in. I know of some of guys I want for my teams anyway.
I just went ahead and added 1 and 3 because I knew what you were going to, I know what you're going to do at 2. I do not know what you're going to do at 4. I don't know what the Falcons are going to do at 4.
I have an idea.
People are talking about a quarterback. I'm not so sure.
We'll see. Talk about it.
We'll talk about it Tuesday. All right. Andrew, another new graphic here. NFL news around the league. Not much this week. But
not much in the last couple of days since we last talked about the news.
Yeah, just a couple days ago. But there is some. Ravens trade Pro Bowl offensive tackle Orlando Brown to the Chiefs. So, see it on the board here. Kansas City gets offensive tackle Orlando Brown, 2021 second-round pick, 2022 sixth-round pick. Baltimore gets this year's first-round pick, number 31. They get third-round pick this year, fourth-round pick this year, and a 2022 fifth. Andrew, Baltimore just got a lot and gave up a guy that I'm hearing rumors they're about to sign Villanueva. So they're not really going to have much loss at that position.
So Orlando Brown just wanted to play left tackle, and he wasn't going to be able in Baltimore. So that's why he asked for the trade.
Mm-hmm.
And Kansas City gave up a lot. They really gave up a lot for Orlando Brown. And the thing is, Orlando Brown wants a new contract. So not only did they have to give up a lot to get him, they're going to have to sign into an extension that's going to be for a lot of money. So this is a pretty big gamble for the Chiefs. I mean, if he turns out to be one of the best left tackles in the league for
did Danny just walk in the
foreseeable future? No, she did not.
I thought I heard your door. Thought I heard your door.
The door is closed in my office. Thanks for interrupting me mid-sentence.
I know. I thought Danny was interrupting. I was going to give her shit.
But the Chiefs gave up a lot. We'll see how it plays out. Now the Ravens have 2 first-round picks there towards the end of the first. Are they a team that wants to trade up for the Colts if they really like a player? Do they just hold back and take a couple in the back end of the first round because the Ravens are always phenomenal at drafting? We'll see. But I'm more worried about the Chiefs having to do so much for a guy that's going to cost them a lot of money anyway. They already have a lot of big contracts on their plate. We'll see.
Love this. I don't have a graphic for this. Sorry, folks. But the Browns pick up 5th-year option for both quarterback Baker Mayfield and cornerback Denzel Ward, which seems like a no-brainer, right? A year ago, if I told you, hey, it's a no-brainer that the Browns should pick up Baker Mayfield's 5th-year option, you would have told me I was a fucking idiot. You'd have been like, dude, it's way too early. We don't know. And I'd have been like, I'm telling you, Baker's the guy. He's going to be the guy. You'd have thought I was an idiot. And here we are. Now, if I told you they weren't going to, you'd say I was an idiot.
Baker, I think, has a chance with the group around him. Baker has a chance to really be good. Do I think Baker Mayfield is the type of guy that can carry a team on his back? No, I don't. Do I think Baker Mayfield can succeed if he has a talented running game, a talented offensive line around him? If you build the team directly around Baker Mayfield and not make him do everything, I think he has a chance to succeed. And Denzel Ward is their top corner, so that was pretty easy. So that's number 1 and number 4 in that draft. Number 6 in that draft is Quentin Nelson, and he's going to reset the offensive line market once that extension gets done. For sure.
Yeah. So the thing about Baker, Andrew, I think he was drafted where he should have been.
Do you think Josh Allen was in that class? Lamar Jackson was in that class. Looking back at it.
Okay. Josh Allen should have been drafted ahead of him. I like Baker Mayfield long-term more than I like Lamar Jackson. Sorry. I said it.
We got to see.
Listen.
I don't necessarily call that a crazy take. I'd like to see more out of the passing game from Lamar Jackson before I would.
Hey, you know what? That's not all on him. Career. He doesn't call the plays either.
He doesn't.
You know what I mean? He wants to throw the ball more. He's talked about that. He's been vocal about that. But anyway, what I'm trying to say, a lot of guys in Baker Mayfield's position go to a team where they're set up for failure. A guy who has promise, who in the right situation could really have a good opportunity to develop. Look at Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen. Think of guys like that you thought like, yeah, this could be a guy, and they just go to have to deal with absolute garbage. We thought Baker Mayfield was going to have to deal with absolute garbage, and then he's got Jarvis Landry, and now his defense is good, and now he's got OBJ whenever he's healthy, and above all else, he got Stefanski at coach. I mean, things have fallen the right way for him to set him up for a little more success. So he's actually going to get that opportunity to develop, where a lot of other guys in his situation never got that opportunity. They lose their starting position, never to see the light of day again. So I think he's got a really unique opportunity here, and I'm happy for Baker. I like Baker.
Yeah, doesn't hurt that he has one of the best offensive lines in football.
Yeah,
and he's got Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt running the ball to take pressure off him.
I wanted to say Nick Chubb, and I couldn't think of his name.
I think a big thing too for Baker is you've seen him mature over the past year and a half or so.
Big time.
I mean, you saw him taking shots in the media. I mean, Cowherd loves to go after Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, he
just loves to. And I think he's a little bit. I like Cowherd. I think he's a little bit hard on Baker.
Yeah,
but you have seen Baker mature quite a bit, and I think that has helped him as well. He's finally realizing that he can't be that that kid with an attitude that he had in college. He's the face of the franchise, and he's got to act like it. He's got to be a professional. And I think he is taking that next step into being a franchise quarterback that he can be. And it's definitely helped that Browns. And you know what? The Browns have talent. I love what the Browns are doing on defense. Like I said, great running game, great offensive line. As long as Baker can handle it and continue to take that next step, Browns, I think, have a very good shot of winning the AFC North this year. I really do.
I do think the Browns win the AFC North this year. It's time. It's time for the Browns to finally break out. I think the AFC North again next year is going to be a three playoff team conference. There you go. You get it. Yeah, I think that the AFC North is going to be a problem. Anything else in the league, Andrew? I haven't heard anything. I don't think there's been any new Deshaun Watson news that I've heard, but it's only
not yet.
Sunday, and
everyone's getting ready for the draft. I don't know if we're going to have much news before then.
That's great news for Deshaun Watson that the draft's going on right now.
It's gonna be exciting. Can't wait to mock draft it up with you on Tuesday night.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun. All right, here we go. Wrap up. Mock draft on Tuesday. Okay. We're gonna go through our first round mock. We're going to do a little bad beats with Brandon, I think. Good beats with Brandon over the weekend, you know what I mean? So
same for Andrew.
Geez, now I lost my train of thought. So don't miss that live stream. It's not going to be fun to listen to it afterwards. I don't think we're going to post the draft live stream as a podcast.
Yeah,
maybe a bonus episode. It's not going to have a title.
It'll be a bonus episode of mock draft.
It's not going to have a number next to it.
Yeah.
No, I mean Thursday. The mock draft is going to get posted.
Mock draft posted Thursday. We're streaming the first round of the NFL.
Yeah, that's not getting posted as a podcast. I don't think.
No,
not a podcast thing. I'm going to be on my couch. I'm going to move my setup so I can just sit on the couch and watch the draft. Paige was going to be here and hang out with us, but she decided it'd be more fun to pick up an extra shift at work. So she's right next to me and she's not even listening. Oh, there I got the side eye. Go follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at the Educated Fan. That's at TheEducatedFan. It's nice to have that in front of me now. I mean, I have it memorized, I can spin it off, but it's nice to do it, to see it. Anything else, Andrew? They got the schedule. My God, it's a busy week.
It's busy, but it's going to be fun. I'm excited for the draft. I'll be on my couch too. You might see Danny, you might see Cooper join the shot a little bit here.
Here we go.
It's going to be fun. So people, if you're watching the draft, pull YouTube up on your phone, join in the comments, ask us our opinions on the on Colts are going to do, on the different prospects they're drafted, because we're going to give our live analysis on every pick. It should be a fun time.
It will be fun, and there will be graphics and a guest. All right, Andrew. Until Tuesday, another short break. Go Colts.
Go Colts.
I fucking love football, and I love you guys.